When Hollywood tells on itself, it's pretty funny. But when a writer tells you that they're awful and yet they still get employed by the system, then it just makes it a farce. And this is exactly where Nia DaCosta comes in. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. First and foremost, if you enjoy this video, please do click that like button, maybe drop a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. It's really important right now because YouTube are going all wibbly wobbly. But you may have heard the name Nia DaCosta somewhere. You might not be able to put your finger on it, but let me remind you. Who could forget this cinematic masterpiece called The Marvels, which currently resides as the biggest bomb that the MCU has seen, and that's saying something these days. But look who directed it. Well, it just so happens to be our very own Nia DaCosta. Well, she's going to be directing the sequel to the 28 Years Later movie, and let's just say that she's opened her mouth and had a little bit to say about the system and Hollywood. Unfortunately for her, it throws her complete and utterly under the bus. But quickly, before that, let's just get to know the lady a little bit better ourselves. This is Nia DaCosta, a 35, nearly 36-year-old woman who classes herself as a writer/director. And if we have a look at her body of work, there is only 6 writing credits and only 7 directing credits in 12 years. So how on earth did somebody that has no proven track record, no body of work to call upon, get themselves a job at Marvel where they are directing a film with a budget of $270 million? I can't for the life of me figure out why. Can you? I know, isn't it baffling? Of course, Nia ticks literally all the right boxes that Disney Marvel would love to see, because she's black, she's female, she has progressive politics, she's everything that optically they like to give the appearance of, whereas they don't care about talent, they don't care about proven track record, they don't care about actual skill or anything like that whatsoever. No, she's a product of the DEI ESG system, and, well, her work has literally been speaking for itself, which, let's just say, isn't a compliment. When the full figures for the Marvels finally came out, surprise, surprise, it's always much higher than they go and report. The production budget turned out to be $270 million. They added then a further $110 million for marketing, another $21 million in residuals, distribution expenses, and $54 million in interest and overhead, with a total cost of the movie at $455 million. And when it finally arrived at the cinema, it grossed a meager $206 million at the worldwide box office. Bear in mind, of course, that they'd only see, at best, half of that, which isn't quite the case because of international, but just for argument's sake, let's say they only saw 100 million of that. That means that the Marvels movie ended up losing the company $350 odd million after all was said and done. The biggest flop that they've had by a long shot. Now, at this juncture, I'm actually going to come to the defense of Nia DaCosta, the director, because how much of that is actually the director's fault? Well, we know how much studio interference there is. We know how much editing and re-editing and re-editing and reshooting there's done due to the producers and the studio heads. We know that for a director, this is an exceedingly challenging time, and we've discussed many times on streams that directors aren't hired, they are cast. They are simply another name that they can attach to the project, but as regards to that project being the vision of that director, no, absolutely not. There's way too much interference. So was this Nia DaCosta's fault in terms of a director? The answer to that would be no.
This is where the fun begins.
Indeed, Anakin, it is. You see, Nia DaCosta has actually decided to speak out on this subject. In actual fact, she says, and blames the Marvel's failure on the Marvel script problems. So this isn't a director's problem. This is actually a writer's problem. DaCosta then goes on to say, making the 28 Years Later sequel was one of the best filmmaking experiences I've had. Which, let's face it, Nia, isn't difficult considering you've only got 7 directing credits in the space of 12 years. So yes, I can imagine it is simply by default. One of the issues I had with Candyman and the Marvels was the lack of a really solid script, which is always going to just wreak havoc on the whole process. So if you can't nail down that writing, then the whole thing's just going to go to shit. I think that's a decent way of paraphrasing what she just said. Candyman, you say? Let's have a look at how Candyman under Nia DaCosta performed at the cinema. DaCosta's Candyman came out in 2021, a well-known horror franchise. Tony Todd, of course, R.I.P., being the lead character in that. And it brought in $77 million at the worldwide box office, with a further $2 million coming in with Blu-ray DVD sales. The production budget was $25 million. So it had to hit somewhere there or thereabouts, 55 to 60 million to break itself even. So the likelihood is it made a profit of maybe 20 odd million dollars, which you might say is nothing to be sniffed at when you're dealing with smaller budgets. But ultimately, with the Candyman franchise, especially with the fact that Jordan Peele was also attached to it, was that what they were looking for numbers-wise? No, clearly not. They would be looking for at least 100 million plus, and probably looking to bring in a profit of 50, 60 odd million dollars. And if you think that's unrealistic, just look at what Weapons is doing at the box office right now. And that's a brand new IP. And it's already in profit to the tune of 70, 80 odd million dollars. And it's only in its second week of release and still going exceedingly strong. Candyman had Jordan Peele's clout behind it. It had Tony Todd as the Candyman, of course. And it was a well-established franchise which just didn't live up to expectation. And as Nia DaCosta said, though, that's because there were problems with the Candyman script as well as the Marvel script. She's confirming herself that this underperformed. One of the issues I had with Candyman and the Marvels was the lack of a really solid script. Well, let's go to the defense of Nia DaCosta here, because we need to find out who wrote these projects. Who wrote Candyman? Who wrote the Marvels? Candyman writers Jordan Peele, Win Rosenfeld, and Nia DaCosta. Wait a minute, Nia. You also wrote this as well. You are responsible for the script. You and another 2 people put your heads together and came out with the thing that you yourself said was shit. So who wrote the Marvels then? The Marvels director, Nia DaCosta, writer Nia DaCosta, Megan McDonnell, and Eliza Karasik. Wait, so Nia also wrote the Marvels as well, with another couple of whammons. So she, again, is responsible for the script that she's poo-pooing all over. So is Nia simply admitting that she's an ineffectual writer that has absolutely no say, no sway how the script goes and is therefore a detriment to the writer's room and a complete and utter waste of time? Or is she saying B, that she's shit? Her writing is shit, and her writing is actually impeding the ability to direct movies. Either way, Nia, you're not looking like you're coming out smelling of roses here. So I just want to reread this one more time for your benefit and mine to make sure that we're not misconstruing what she says or taking it out of context. One of the issues I had with Candyman and the Marvels was the lack of a really solid script, which is always gonna just wreak havoc on the whole process. Nia DaCosta admits that her contributions to Candyman and to the Marvels wreaked havoc with those movies, and now she's gonna turn around and point the finger at, well, herself. But this is absolutely par for the course when it comes to people who never deserve to have the position that they've been given. Their insecurities come shining through. I'm directing the next 28 Years Later movie. Therefore, I'm going to cast my criticisms at the writing section of my previous failures, even though I was also responsible for the writing of that. But then the excuse machine goes further, of course, because we get, why did the Marvels fail? Well, 3 strong women leads, therefore men are misogynistic because they dare not see powerful women on the silver screen. Even though more men turned out to watch the Marvels than women. But don't worry about those statistics. Why did the Candyman underperform? Well, it's a Jordan Peele film and he cast predominantly black people. Therefore, everybody's now racist. All the blame gets pointed out and out and out and out and out, instead of the one place where it thoroughly deserves to be, at themselves. They dare not take any responsibility, because if these people take responsibility for their writing, for their directing, for their own actions, then they are simply highlighting that they never belonged there in the first place. They never deserved to have that position because they were never there on merit. They were there because of their color, their gender, most likely, though, their political standings and their politics. Well done, Nia DaCosta. You just told the whole world that your writing sucks. But that, I guess, is the Hollywood way in the West in current day. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Goodbye, Blue Bull.